100% right now, one-on-one coaching. I considered branching off into team coaching. I have done a little bit of it. For some reason, I have not made the decision to branch over into it aggressively. I would do it if someone asked me to, but I don't really advertise it or promote it in any way. As a coach, my responsibility is to facilitate a process that to some degree is anchored in some goal or change that the client, the individual, is looking to pursue.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Wynn, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we are joined by David Ehrenthal. He's been in the coaching industry for about 5 years. He is the founder of Mach 10 Career and Leadership Coaching. Welcome to the show, David.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Other than when I was looking at your LinkedIn, I saw that we're from the same hometown and whatnot. But what I'm really excited about is to hear the origin story, the lore of how you got into coaching and what made you want to start a business out of it.
Well, it was very accidental. I spent over 30 years in positions ranging from economist, eventually strategy. I worked for a number of large corporations, both in Europe as well as in the US, a little bit in Latin America. And I frankly became very tired of the corporate world and wanted to do something else. So I left my position as head of marketing CMO and decided to explore new paths. That was about 5 years ago. And that was right around the time that COVID hit. And my graduate school offered me a fellowship in career development, experimental. And I was actually consulting at that time to some higher education institutions, and I was specifically focusing on career development. And at the end of the podcast, at the end of the program, we were in pods and we went around the pod and everybody expressed what they had learned and what they tended now to do. And I didn't really go there, participate to find a new career. And everybody asked me, well, why don't you be a coach? And I said, well, that's an interesting idea. Why do you say that? And they said that I had been participating more as a coach versus a participant since the beginning. So I researched it, got trained. And I also realized that for the last probably 10 years of my career, most of my time was spent coaching my teams. So it really appeared to be a very natural evolution for me.
That's really interesting. So it seems like it was a natural progression over time. So fast forward to now, who do you help or who do you coach and what kind of problems do you help them?
I would say there's really 2 categories and they're much more adjacent than maybe we believe. One category is career coaching, and there's a range of issues that I'm helping people deal with. On the other side is executive coaching / leadership. Often issues that relate to career development are actually more leadership issues, and sometimes the leadership issues are more career issues. So there's a real intersection of the two. I coach people ranging, pre-Ukraine invasion. I had a client in Moscow. I coach a lot in France because I can coach in French. I coach lots of people at very large technology companies. And I also coach people who are out of work and looking to get back in. So it's a real broad range. Probably the middle 50% is between 30 and 50.
Wow. Quite a range. So, man, that's really interesting that you're kind of coaching internationally as well. Because my US brain always thinks you're just coaching in the US, but you're doing it all internationally.
It's a lot of fun. I certainly enjoy coaching. One of the part that I probably enjoy the most is it gives me exposure to a very broad cross section of the world. And that's really interesting. There's kind of an intellectual side to the coaching, and we're in our little bubble, but I get to hear what people are concerned about in Paris or Montreal or Australia or New Zealand. It's kind of all over the place.
Do you see common themes between all these different countries and whatnot?
Well, I mean, everybody is human. We are the same species. So yeah, there are definitely common themes. I
I
could
see.
go into them if you want.
Yeah, please. I would love to hear a few of them.
If I were to sum up what I've learned over the last 5 years, and it's certainly shaped and influenced by my previous years, is that at the end of the day, everything seems to lead to, I would say, belonging and impact. I think there's obviously more to it than that, but a lot of what goes on in our lives at work is wanting to be part of something.
Just jotting down. Yeah, that's really interesting. And so, like, since your market is all over the world, like, how do these people, does this like theme of belonging impact and to be part of something, like, play into your market? Like, oh, so there's a theme of belonging impact to be part of something as well.
Yeah.
And since people internationally are finding about you and your services, how does that impact your marketing? Like, what kind of marketing are you doing? How
Yeah.
do people usually find you?
So I don't do any marketing, per se. I certainly don't do any traditional paid marketing. Well, I would say the only marketing, and I don't like to think of it as marketing, is writing. I do a bunch of writing on LinkedIn, and on Substack. Don't have an enormous following, but I've probably written 50 or 60 articles on issues that I think would be helpful for people to see. Now, an article doesn't replace coaching. It's a complement to coaching. And the benefit of coaching is a, if you will, an instrument to help people make changes. Coaching is about change. At the end of the day, it's about transformation change. Going to, a 2-day seminar on leadership is very helpful. But within 30 to 60 days, 90% of the content is forgotten. Coaching accompanies the person and helps them recognize that sometimes their mindset isn't quite all right. They have blind spots, there's resistance, and the coaching can help them see things a little bit differently, see more possibilities, and make adjustments to behavior that has become habitual, not necessarily advancing the ideal person or situation that they prefer.
So it sounds like people. Were you going to say
I
something
was
else?
just going to say, but on a practical level, because I feel like I didn't fully answer the question, I'll use a kind of a marketing term. I find clients or clients find me through 3 channels. The first is they just find me. I can't explain how a Russian guy from Moscow found me. He was a wonderful guy. I got to tell you, it's probably several months before the invasion. Obviously, we had to discontinue because he didn't feel safe having conversations with me. So one of them is sort of organic. They just come to me. Maybe it's because they see my postings, my Substack, et cetera. They like what I wrote. The second is I do work for or with a private equity firm as a contractor. This private equity firm has a platform of coaches. It's primarily leadership based. Kind of think of it as an executive confidant coaching. And the third is I do work with BetterUp, which you've probably heard of. And one of the benefits of working through BetterUp is that it gives me access to large businesses that I would myself have difficulty getting into.
It's interesting. I've never heard of BetterUp. What is it?
BetterUp, I suspect BetterUp is the largest technology platform used by large corporations, global corporations in the world. They're probably, I'm making this up, anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 coaches around the world that participate in the BetterUp platform. And they're all contractors.
So it's kind of like for coaches, for like large organizations kind of go there to kind of source coaches. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, they have scale. I mean, if you're, IBM, and you want to roll out coaching beyond the C-suite, you need a partner that scales. And I think what BetterUp offers, and I don't work for them, I'm a contractor. What BetterUp
Yes.
offers is the ability to scale it across a large organization, with some assurance that the quality will be good enough, at least.
Which one is the largest lead source for you, like for clients and whatnot?
I mean, I would say probably from a unit point of view, it's probably BetterUp.
I see. Very
From-
interesting. This is the first time I'm hearing about this, so it's like really interesting to see someone that's actually using it. Perfect. Okay. And so these people are kind of finding you, whether it's through BetterUp, whether it's through that PE firm, or whether through it's like Substack, LinkedIn, good old classic SEO, maybe. They're starting to inquire about your services and work with you. And so when you mentioned that coaching facilitates change, what do the coaching modalities look like? Is it like one-on-one coaching, group coaching, organizational trainings? Like, how do you facilitate that change?
It's 100% right now one-on-one coaching. I considered branching off into team coaching. I have done a little bit of it. For some reason, I have not made the decision to branch over into it aggressively. I would do it if someone asked me to, but I don't really advertise it or promote it in any way. As a coach, my responsibility is to facilitate a process that to some degree is anchored in some goal or change that the client, the individual, is looking to pursue. Now, there's two factors that are very important for the process to be successful. The first factor is it has to be really important to the individual. If it's not important to the individual, the change, there's more of a risk that it won't be successful. The other is there need to have a certain degree of confidence in their ability to make this change. And the coaching session, there's an onboarding process where the overarching goals or change are explored, defined in pencil. And then through each session, we have conversations in which the individual senses and becomes more aware of the things that may be blocking, the blockages. And as they become more aware of the blockages, there is a continued reflection on whether or not they want to do something to engage and address that blockage. And if they are interested in addressing and engaging with that blockage, how can they practice and experiment such that the habits that are holding them back are changed?
I see. That's really interesting. And I did want to touch upon the first point too. You said that it has to be important to the individual for the coaching process to work. Have you kind of seen maybe like a situation where it wasn't important to an individual through your experience? Like maybe a company forced this person to do coaching and they're just like going through the motions. Like I'm kind of curious through your experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's historically coaching for many has been perceived as remedial. John isn't performing, therefore we'll get John a coach. And so John gets a coach and he resents the fact that he has a coach. Now there's ways of working through that, but we as coaches, I don't control the outcome. And sometimes it's also hard to know whether the individual doesn't think they need the coaching or they're afraid of it. Because let's be honest here, in the coaching process, it's not therapy, but there are some things that are going to come out that are uncomfortable. The reality is, if it were so easy to change, we would change all the time. We would never be stressed. We would just do it. And unfortunately, we get stuck in old ways of doing things, or we just get stuck into doing nothing. And it takes some degree of motivation and confidence that we can make changes. That is true for career and is, I'll give you a perfect example in career coaching. One of the most effective, I would call a tactic in career coaching is the interview. If you got the interview, which is difficult to get these days, you want to make it count. And there is a blind spot that almost everybody I meet has. And the blind spot is this. People want to present themselves as being really good, but they forget that the starting point is what the hiring manager is looking for. It's not, it is about you, but it's what you say really needs to align with the basic skills, competencies, behavioral traits that align with what the hiring manager is looking for. So if you write a cover letter, if you could be conversation or resume, I will look at cover letters and say, how does that align with what that hiring manager is looking for? Well, what do you mean? Well, you're highlighting, you have 9 bullets in this letter. Which of those are relevant to what the manager is looking for? Well, none of them. Well, what might be relevant? That's an example.
Since you're head of marketing, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. This reminds me of the classic copywriting, what they say about copywriting, like who's your audience and like write for your audience, especially when it comes to like sales pages, email marketing, all that sort of stuff.
It's exactly the same thing. Now, does that mean that you're a chameleon and you fundamentally just, talk or behave or accept jobs that don't align with what gives you meaning, what you enjoy doing, or gives you the extrinsic rewards you're looking for? No. But if you're at the interview point and you're interested in the job, it is ultimately about getting to the next round.
As you're going through that scenario, it's like, of course I want a life of resentment of all these jobs I don't want. Duh. That's really interesting. And so it sounds like a lot of the work you do is like quite intimate as well. So and since your majority since it's 100% one-on-one coaching, how do you manage your client capacity? Do you have help at all, like admin help, or do you hire? Curious on that end as well.
Well, I do have a partner. Sometimes I will bring people in, but I probably have 35, 40 concurrent clients. I don't meet with all of them weekly, some of them. It's very manageable, and I really don't allow it to get unmanageable, to be honest with you. I'm just not interested in that. I'm not interested in scaling my business. That could change, but right now, I spent my entire career scaling businesses. Right now, I help people one person at a time. It's not doing this, if you will. The money is probably third on my list of reasons why I do this.
What's number one and two?
I think number one is I know through experience how difficult it is to find both fulfillment through work and also live a life of balance. And, if I were to put it in biological terms, homeostasis, it is very complicated what drives us. And I think to some degree, my decision to become a coach 4 or 5 years ago, it's not a coincidence that it took place during COVID, because I suspected COVID was going to create tremendous complexities for people in the workplace. And I was worried. It reminded me a little bit of the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, but I didn't really know what it was going to do until it happened. And now it didn't do what I expected it to do. It did something else. I expected, a cratering of the economy like 7, 8. I expected it to be significantly worse. And I thought the challenge was going to be fundamentally, there's no jobs. What I find the crisis being is difficulties losing social activity through in-person work, or the experience of being part of something socially. I think work is much more of a social institution than we understand. And I think there's much more uncertainty today of politically, economically, technologically than I ever remember. And that uncertainty triggers a lot of stress. The stress eating stress does have negative consequences on the body and on the mind. And part of what really drives me is trying to help people find that balance and enjoy life. And their work can be a fantastic channel for creativity and social togetherness and belonging. It can also be a tremendous struggle and persistent point of stress.
Yeah, I definitely do notice that too. Like, especially right now, there's a doom and gloom with like the threat of AI, job instability, and all that. And people are just going through a rough time. So I can see why you do the work that you do to help people through these like really, I would say, uncertain times, you know? I don't even think it's rough quite yet because like it's like that roller coaster where like we're like going up and up. Everybody's waiting for the drop.
So, neurologically, and I find the neurological part of it very interesting. Our brains are prediction machines, and we create narratives in our brain. And these narratives can cause us to get stuck. And some people will call that kind of getting stuck in the victim hole. It's not fair. There's no way out. And some of what I do, depending upon the client, is to try to work with people to get them out of that, being stuck in that victim mindset, into a more empowered mindset. It's not easy. So, okay, you're stuck. Now what? What can you do?
Oh man, I could talk about the neuroscience of all this too for like hours, by the way. But there's some other topics that I want to ask you about as well, David. Okay, so you're facilitating these conversations. You're helping people through these uncertain times to not get stuck through this. Like, did you use the word victim, like kind of like mindset? I can't remember what
I
you
did. I
used.
did use it, and I want to be very careful of it. There's a positive psychologist who you may know, Scott. What is it? Scott Barry Kaufman. I think his name is Scott Barry Kaufman, and he published a book called Rising Above. I think we have to be very careful. There's a politicization of the term, and I want to be careful with it. But I do think there's a bit of a cultural trend toward feeling like a victim. And I think it can be I think it can be blocking for certain people. It's not to
Yeah.
say that some people aren't victims, but anyway, so I answered your question. I did say it.
Yeah, the whole victim thing. No one likes being called a victim. It's very ego triggering and it's very like negative connotation. But you're right. There's a level of like the word I would think about is almost like this feeling of helplessness a lot of times, right? Like maybe that's how I would label it.
Some people, it's interesting. You said that it has a pejorative kind of connotation. Some people will argue today, and
Really?
well, yeah, some people argue today, and I see it. that there is a tremendous advantage to being considered a victim. It can serve people.
How do you see it from your perspective? The things I think about are like perhaps the ego, maybe, but I would love to kind of hear like how you see it serving them.
I think we get splintered into so many identities that we start to think, it's not fair. People like me are getting screwed. And there are some cases where it's true. I mean, we're getting into a slippery slope here,
Yes.
but I feel as if it's become a general reaction to things. One of my favorite headlines in the New York Times in 2004 was, are there any Iraqis in Iraq? Are we just Sunnis, Shiites, and Kurds?
Interesting food for thought right there. Okay. So you're getting these clients and all that, and they're finding out about you. We talked about your kind of like facilitation of this process. One of the things I love your advice on this because some people listening to this, especially the coaches, one of the common themes I see that they struggle with is pricing and pricing strategy. And especially with like executive and leadership coaching, the value can sometimes be a little bit more subjective versus like, hey, I'm a sales coach and I help you improve your sales. Like you can easily track that. But the leadership stuff is a little bit harder and stuff like that too. Anyways, you don't have to give any hard numbers, but if you're open to it, like how do you think about when it comes to structuring your pricing? Are there any price strategies that you gravitated to? Sure.
It is a very complicated issue for coaches, and not just coaches, some consultants in general. And we're not consultants, we're professional services. I have a couple of advantages, so I get to punt most of the time. The private equity firm I work with tells me what my fee is going to be, and it's very high. And when they talked to me, they said they were sorry it was so low. I thought it was really high. So the question in my mind was, my God, are some of these coaches earning, more than four figures? High four, it's like, wow, better up. I don't have any choice. It's based on my certification, a PCC. And then when I go direct, I do have some numbers in mind. I charge a little bit lower or less, I should say, for the career coaching and a little more for the leadership coaching. I'd be happy to give you some numbers. I was coaching this guy in Moscow. And at one point I said, are you making choices between paying me and feeding your family? And he hesitated. And I said, stop paying me for the next few sessions. Cut my fee in half, but do not choose me over your family, and I'll still coach you. So I have a bunch of cases like that where, if I charge, let's just say $300 per session, $200, $300 per session, if I sense somebody can't afford it, it's going to put strain on them. I change.
If you don't mind me asking, what were some of the indicators that you notice where someone's like really struggling?
I listen to them. With fee?
Yeah, for example, your previous Moscow client as well, right? Like you mentioned, you brought up that question, but were there certain signs that you're like telltale signs where you're like, this guy might be struggling, and I should probably bring this up?
He was out of work. If they're out of work, it's generally when they're out of work that I will say that, because you know how long your runway is going to be, or your on-ramp. So actually the bigger question for me is how many sessions I lock them into the program. That to me is the bigger issue. And what I don't want to do is that I don't want them to throw good money after bad. In other words, if they're really not fully committed, I will encourage them not to do it. I don't really want them to do one or two sessions unless I believe it would really benefit them. That's where I have a dilemma. I don't want to coach somebody who I don't think will sustain what they need to sustain to achieve their goals. I feel bad. I can't do it. It's not even an ethical dilemma. I won't do it.
How did you kind of come up with that initial, like, especially when you were first starting, how did you come up with that initial number? Did you look at what other coaches were doing?
I have a mentor. She is where I was trained when I got my coaching training. She was, I think, on the board at one point of the IFC. She gave me some guidance. I had come up with a number in a vacuum.
So you went to your mentor and she kind of gave you that guidance as well. Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
And in the program, it was,
I see.
How did I start? I had to get 100 hours, right, to get my, ACC. So, how did I start? I started with $1. I went to 10. I went to 50. I went to 100. I went to 200. Once I got to 200, and then I decided that, now I just need to figure out, what my baseline is. With career coaching, it's actually more complicated because some of the work is done outside of the session. So if I, and this is not my favorite part, but if I help them with their resume, if I help them with their value proposition and actually do writing and things like that, research, that's more complicated how much I charge them. And it's actually more consulting from my point of view. So it's kind of a consulting fee.
I see. Are you planning to just keep things where they are, or is there anything else that you kind of want to work on with your business at this point in this season, I guess?
Yeah. So I'm in a phase of inertia, and I know it. I'm sliding along. The only thing I have done recently, I'm in kind of a steady state, BAU, business as usual. The only thing I have done is I've gone back to my books and reread some of the books with the knowledge that I have now versus when I read them 4 or 5 years ago when I was training. And I've actually found that to be really, really, because really that I really want to refine my effectiveness. That's what's right now still important to me. Have I thought about group coaching? Yes. Have I written up a program to do group coaching? One of the things I actually wanted to do was I wanted to create a program to help managers become good coaches, because I think that, we coach these people, but they also they need to develop better coaching styles, and modal switching. By mode, I mean style in their management or leadership capacities. I think I haven't really pursued it aggressively at all. I just haven't found a compelling reason to push it. I could find a compelling reason to push it. I think that I have is, as a very small entity getting into businesses, successfully selling myself into businesses. I know if I worked really, 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 really hard at it, I probably would eventually get in. I have worked with a couple of businesses independent of BetterUp and the private equity firm, but I have not been interested. It's because I'm a marketing guy. I know what I'd have to do, but for some reason, I haven't been motivated to do it. I could change. Something would have to grab me, and I'd have to say to myself, this is worth doing.
It's really interesting because you mentioned, yeah, you were a head of marketing, right, at one point in CMO. And so like, it seems like it's kind of the compelling reason. Do you think you'll find that reason, or do you think that reason will just kind of pop up within the next, I don't know, maybe 5 years?
I really don't know. I mean, I work with some people. Some of the joy I get is I work with some people who are kind of leaders in business academia. You can imagine where, I'm around Boston, so you can imagine there's a lot of places I could be, and I work with some psychiatrists who are part of this group, some neurologists, and some people in Europe who are focused on sort of the autonomic layer of what's going on in the workplace. I get a lot of fulfillment from that. And I think the reason I don't pursue it right now is because the financial incentive doesn't drive me enough. Other things could drive me. I get financial benefit from working with these people. Yeah, I published a couple of articles. One of them was in Inc. That felt, that was nice. Get some more exposure. But I am not driven as much by the financial incentives that I suspect most coaches are. And therefore it would have to be some meaning. There would have to be something about it that really resonated with me and motivated me very intrinsically. Yes. The extrinsic isn't going to do it for me. Although I do want to get paid. I do want to get, and some of it is habit. I just don't feel right if I don't get paid. It's really weird.
Yeah. Speaking about getting paid, I would like to play a game with you if you're open to it.
Sure.
It's through the lens of business investments, because a lot of coaches invest into like coaching, training, team members, marketing, a lot of different things, right? And so I kind of want to hear stories about your personal business investments. And so I want to play the storytelling game. I'm going to prompt you 4 things, and then I'll ask you a summary question at the very, very end. But I'm going to just prompt you a question, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind, okay? Your first business investment you remember.
My training. I trained through the Gestalt International Study Center, which is actually based in Cape Cod. Oh, actually, they're in Boston now. They moved in finally. GIFC. So I made a decision to invest in a Gestalt approach to coaching. So that was like my first.
Okay. Last business investment you made.
I think I got paid the invoice for, I think it's
For your blog.
$350 or something like that.
Okay. Best business investment.
I got trained. I'm glad I went to a meeting that was developmental, not performance based. I didn't really want to do performance coaching. I think probably that.
Worst business investment that you kind of wish you got your money back from?
This is going to sound really arcane and stupid. I'd probably Trustpilot, although, because I mean, it sounds stupid, but I didn't really need to pay them. Other ways of getting done what I need to get done. I have not invested very much. My investment is my time. It's the old sweat equity.
As you reflect on like these different stories or maybe memories that these prompt up in your mind, I guess like I'm not sure if it has changed a lot, but I guess how has your decision making process changed and what to invest in, if at all? Like how do you decide what to invest in and what not to invest in?
You're upon probably one of my biggest flaws, and that is it's a very unsatisfying answer. I don't really invest. I mean, I don't invest capital, and I think it probably limits me. There's a little bit of a playing not to lose versus to win in me, and for some reason, that's what I'm doing. You know, I have a mentor coach, but I suspect if you did extensive coaching, they would tell me, you know, is that a habit you want to continue, or
Yeah.
you won't? And I would say, how much time you got to work through it? I don't know. There's a reason I do what I do. There's a reason we all do what we do. Does that mean it's the best choice for us? No. Otherwise, wouldn't need coaches.
Yeah, that was the first thing that popped in my mind is like, is that something you're happy with?
I probably could take more risks.
Yeah. Last bit of advice I would love from you is like, let's say you had to start over tomorrow. If you lose all your followers, your clients disappear out thin air, you don't know why. And all for some reason, all the relational capital that you built is now gone. But you have all the experience that you do have. And let's say you had to rebuild this business. I'm kind of curious, what would your first 90 days kind of look like?
Can you tell me why I lost everything? Or just a magic wand was waved and it's gone?
It's kind of like, have you ever seen Infinity Wars with like the Marvel? Thanos just like snaps.
Just like
No,
that.
not
Okay.
comic.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that. Gone, disappeared.
I think I would do a lot of the things the same. I probably would have invested earlier in understanding the neurological aspects, the neurobiological aspects of it. I probably would have more quickly got integrated into a group that was no, it's not functional. That came at the issues I'm dealing with at different angles. I believe very strongly that there is a flaw in many coaches in that they're stuck in coach land and they're not understanding is the wrong word. They're not getting exposure to other elements that affect or shape people and how they're, you know, kind of conducting their lives. It sounds a little vague, but I'm talking about the business side, the psychological side. I think they probably do a lot of that. The sociological side, the political side, you know, side, maybe even the medical side. I think some do touch on some of those areas, but I find that a lot of the coaches, when they express themselves on LinkedIn, take very strong positions. And I don't think that's always helpful. I don't know if I answered your question. Oh, what would I do differently? So I would have gotten more integrated into this group like I'm in. I would have probably invested a little more into the neurobiological side of things. That's a really good question. I need to think more about that.
How about when it comes to like, I know money is not the primary driver, but let's say your cash flow goes to zero. How do you think about getting clients? Would you approach more PE firms? Would you reset up Better Up and all that? I'm kind of curious about like
It's a really
how
good,
you think about that.
It's a really, I'd be screwed. Yeah. Because I wouldn't be, that all kind of happened. I mean, for a year I swore I would never work with Better Up, and then I did. And I was intentional about it. It wasn't like a whim. I never thought about working for a private equity firm, and then I did. That came out of nowhere.
Do you mind sharing that, by the way? How did that happen? Because this is like you're one of the first people that have mentioned like the private equity.
Maintaining bridges is a good thing in life. And I happen to know somebody who was a coach well before me, and he knows me well, and he recommended me. And that was it. And I interviewed several interviews and did some mock sessions, and I kind of fit in. They're all excellent. They really are. It was a little intimidating in the beginning. They have generally larger practices. They're outsourcing some things. I think the big difference between me and a lot of coaches is I like to write. And even though I know it's not really working for me from a business perspective, often videos and sound bites are all the thing today. That's okay. I like to write. So I'm going to write.
I love it. Speaking about writing, David, how can people find your writings, find you, and connect with you?
Well, if they ever want to talk to me, they can call me or text me. I'll give you my number, 617-529-8795. My website, I do have a website, Mach 10 career, all one word.com. I'm on LinkedIn. My email address, this is going to be a hard one, is D and my last name, Ehrenthal, at mach10career.com, which is the domain. Or they can come by Carlisle, Massachusetts and say hello.
I lived in Massachusetts most of my life. I don't even think I've been to Carlisle ever.
How did you get to, it seceded from Carlisle in the 18th century. It should really go back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a big
Maybe I
thing.
passed through, but I
See?
don't think I've ever intentionally
Yeah.
gone.
There ain't much out here. Unless you cycle, you're probably not coming out here.
Well, David, it was so great just having you.
I want to thank you for inviting me. It was a fun conversation. I learned some things myself from the conversation, and I enjoyed being with you.
Thank you so much, David.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.